Everyone, and welcome to week 2. Now, as I mentioned in the course announcement, if y'all saw that, per university policy, if the university is closed, I am not required to have any assignments due. So, if you're a little bit behind, if you haven't done week's 1 discussion, it will actually be due at the end of this week. So you might have to double up on week 2 and week 1 if you haven't participated yet. The same thing with your asynchronous assignments, because I fully recognize that not everyone has great internet connection. All my people were home. I've got 2 teenagers, a husband who had to work from home all week, and a very demanding toddler. And so our internet connection was a little bit iffy all week long, honestly. So I do apologize if it took me a little bit longer to get back to some of you. I did have a few people reach out, and I do appreciate that. So, anyway, so if you haven't finished anything from week 1, it will be due at the end of this week. All work is due on Sunday. So, everything that was due week 1, which would have been today, is actually due a week from today, which I think is the 28th, 29th, somewhere right around in there. But I just wanted to go over what we're going to be doing this week. We're going to be jumping right into narrative, and I just wanted to show you I do have the first unit completely uploaded into the content section, and also the drop boxes and everything. So just to kind of show you, wrong thing. Hold on one second. So if you go to week 2, actually, no, I'm going to back up a little bit. So prompts. I do have your very first literacy narrative prompt, and it is in this content section. And if you click on it, I'll also be posting it in the newsfeed underneath this video announcement in D2L, so that way you can see it. But your literacy narrative prompts. So just to kind of jump right into it, people assume that literacy narrative is not academic writing, but it is. Our stories are extremely important. They form who we are and how we came to be where we are. And we do this in forms of literacy narratives. And it's not just a chronological stories of events. It's okay to go a little out of order. The main purpose is finding out why these events were significant in the first place. And so a literacy narrative is an assignment that we do at MTSU in our 1010 courses, and it's all about your relationship with reading, writing, and speaking. So all I want you to do is focus on 1 to 2 personal stories that shaped your relationship with literacy from the past to this day. So a great example of this is that I don't remember learning how to read. Part of my literacy narrative is that my parents, we lived out in the middle of nowhere in Culleoka, Tennessee when I was really little. And we didn't even have cable until I was 9, 10 years old, and my mom read to me every night. It was the Little House on the Prairie books and the Berenstain Bear books. I don't know why those two stick out in my head, but every night we had this really old beat up brown leather recliner, and we would curl up in that recliner together, and she would read me these books. And it's just such a wonderful memory, and I just don't remember when the words started making sense. Like, I don't remember learning how to read. And that's just me. Everybody's literacy story is different. I also learned my ABCs from watching Wheel of Fortune, as they like to remind me frequently in my family. So I could write a story about that. I could write a story about watching Wheel of Fortune in my grandparents' farmhouse every night at 6:30 or whatever time it came home, and learning my letters that way, or just like that story of reading with my mom in the chair and how important that was to me to have those moments with her. That's part of my literacy narrative. Now, it doesn't always have to be positive. Some people do not have positive stories with literacy. A great example of that for me is I was really bad at public speaking, horrible at public speaking, as a matter of a fact. And it was really when I was forced to kind of get up in front of people and speak all the time through a lot of my college classes that really made me get over that. So I could write about that, or I can write about, oh my goodness, when I was in 8th grade, we had to write this short story, and the prompt was the Popsicle Man and his yo-yo. And somehow I managed to actually create a good story out of that. But the problem was the previous story, and I can't even remember the prompt. That's how much I had blocked it out of my head. My teacher put so many red marks on that story, criticizing my handwriting, my organization. And I can remember thinking I was such a horrible, horrible, horrible writer. it was just a real kick in the gut to my confidence. But then the very next story we wrote was that particular story, and all of a sudden I was a great storyteller. And it was just really confusing to me that eighth grade year, because how could someone be so critical of one story and then not of the other? And so, like, that's what your literacy narrative is going to be about. It can be something good, it can be bad, it can be good and bad. It's whatever you want it to be. But why do you have the relationship with literacy you have now? And it's okay to say it sucks. I mean, flat out, it's okay to say it sucks. But where is it and where do you want it to go? So think about your background. What have you experienced? What was your attitude towards it? How do you feel about now? Are there one or two memories that really stand out? And what has shaped your relationship with literacy to this day? So focus on those one to two memories. Some people want to give me a literacy autobiography, and I don't want that. I want one to two memories, very specific time period in your life. If it becomes more than that, it becomes a memoir, or, as I said, a literacy autobiography. And show how they impact your relationship with literacy to this day. Like, I still have trouble speaking in front of large groups of people. Every now and then when I write a short story, like, I've been published like online magazines and whatnot, and to this day I still get nervous that someone's just going to tell me I'm a horrible writer, even though I have a master's degree in it, have proof that I'm fairly decent at it. I still get nervous that someone's going to reject it based off of my bad experiences in eighth grade. I mean, it still is affecting me to this day. So it's just basically those stories, how it impacted you, and what's your relationship today. I don't have any formatting requirements. I'm not going to be worrying about MLA or anything like that, but I do want it to have at least 12-point font with double spacing and a title. That's because I have old eyes and it's just easier for me to read if your papers are double spaced and 12-point font. And two, if it's a 2 to 4 page requirement and you single space it, guess what? You've automatically like written way more than you actually needed to. So anyway, I do have an alternate assignment on this. Please ignore the MT20. I forgot to delete that in your book, but you can create like a storyboard if you want to. You can do it in PowerPoint, but there's a minimum of 20 slides. And you must include art or pictures. You have to illustrate it so it kind of reads like a comic book, if you like. So if you want to do this one, you just have to basically tell the story in picture form. So if you're really, really good at drawing and you want to try this, then go for it. I do not mind at all. So your audience will be an audience of your peers, and you'll want to write it in a way that anyone can easily understand it. So, but only be willing to write what you want others to see, because we are going to be doing a peer review on this. And so I don't want it to be a situation where you're like, oh no, I didn't think anyone was going to see it. I'm telling you right now, we are going to do a peer review. At least one of your classmates will be taking a look at it. So I don't want you to come back to me later and go, oh, I wish I hadn't shared that. So, always only share what you're willing. So this is going to be due on February 11th. And as I said, we're going to be doing a peer review on this. So let me go back to show you the, it's not under helpful links. Oh, I did post some helpful links for y'all, by the way, while I'm distracted. Just some MLA examples and narrative. I'll be filling this in as the class goes along, just things that I think that would be helpful for all of you. But there's a literacy narrative rubric. And honestly, it will kind of go along with if you choose to do the storyboard as well. Basically, I'm just looking for, do you have good sentence flow? Is it coherent? Do you have good spelling, punctuation, and capitalization? Does it transition well? Does it have that logos that we're going to be talking about with rhetoric this week, where it transitions from one thing to the other? Is it interesting, and is it following the prompt? Basically, if you do that, you're going to make an A on this paper. So, but there is the rubric for your viewing pleasure. Sorry, again, my computer is being very, very slow. You do have, go back to content, just as some of you are kind of getting used to navigating it this week. If you click on week 2, which is where we are, it has the 3 things that you need to complete, including the discussion board. Now for this week, make sure you respond to the prompt by Wednesday and do 2 peer replies by Sunday. And I'll be kind of a little bit more involved, as hopefully everyone leaves my house and I can actually get onto the internet without it taking 20 minutes. And then you have 2 asynchronous assignments based off of rhetoric and narrative. So one of them is kind of a pre-writing. It kind of builds into to help you do some like brainstorming for your literacy narrative. So as I said, both of them are very important to complete. So make sure you are completing those. And as always, if you have any questions or concerns, just let me know. Oh, and by the way, sorry, you can also find your assignments under the Dropbox. You can actually find the first few weeks assignments under the Dropbox if you look for them. And then you can find discussions under discussions. And then also, if you need more places to find them. Oh, it's not popping up. Hold on one second. Or some. It's being slow. Sorry. They're also under the calendar, just for different things. So just ignore those due dates. I know it says January 21st, but again, week 1, you have until next week to complete it. Yeah, January 28th to complete all assignments from both this week and last week. All right, have a great week and let me know if you need anything.